Lil Nas had been teasing Call Me By Your Name since last year, and his hardcore fans were so hyped for it to finally release in late March after months of hearing the same snippet over and over. But when the song and music video finally dropped, it just wasn't what people expected at all. The video starts with a monologue about hiding your true self before unleashing the beautiful, colorful world of detailed, atmospheric, high-budget CGI, showcasing visual aesthetics of ancient Greek mythology mixed with 21st century sci-fi. Of course, paired with a super catchy song with slick production, telling the story of Lil Nas and a lover he became infatuated with the moment he met them. He finds himself unable to get them out of his head even though they've just met, and fantasizes about them in a pretty personal way, unlike anything he's ever made before. The music video plays out a little differently. Lil Nas plays the part of a fallen angel judged at the gates of heaven before falling to hell on an endless stripper pole and humping Satan before snapping his neck and stealing the king of hell's crown. It's a pretty good video with an even better song, and I think his millions of fans were more than happy with it, considering it has 130 million views in 2 weeks and 150 million streams on Spotify alone. Call Me By Your Name is on track to become another massive hit for Lil Nas X. After debuting at number 1, it still feels like the only place for Lil Nas to go is up. It's the same standard of quality and virality we've come to expect from Lil Nas, with an added dimension of personality. But what I don't think anyone expected was for Lil Nas to start another wave of satanic panic. This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. This week only, you can get a year's membership for less than $12, less than $1 per month. Plus, you'll get Nebula for free, where you can watch exclusive versions of my content early and ad-free, with new originals on the way now. So back in 2019, after releasing Old Town Road, it was clear Lil Nas X had made more than a splash. The song he made with a budget of $50 while living on his sister's couch had become the longest charting #1 single in the history of the music industry. But before long, expectations for a follow-up started growing. But this was his dream. He wasn't about to crack under the pressure. So now, just a few weeks after releasing his first true personal expression as an artist, after a handful of extremely successful singles over the last few years, Lil Nas is neck deep in one of the music industry's biggest scandals in years. Conservative politicians, political figures, other musicians, social media personalities, and TV hosts are all calling for the canceling of his new song and the merch that went along with it. Of course, the Satan-themed shoes that contained human blood were so controversial, Nike sued to get them confiscated. Meanwhile, the Church of Satan wrote that the video was powerful and congratulated Lil Nas for his achievements. At the same time, why are people like the governor of South Dakota writing that satanic imagery puts her in a fight against Nas for the soul of America? Why did Joyner Lucas write that Lil Nas was corrupting his children? Why did literally millions of American Christians cry out in pain as if someone had poured acid in their eyes? You know, I think even if most of the people hating on Lil Nas don't remember it, there is actually a backstory here.
D&D, and it's become popular with children anywhere from grammar school on up. Not so with a lot of adults who think it's been connected to a number of suicides and murders.
Back in the 80s and 90s, long before Lil Nas was even a thought in his mom's mind, there was a real satanic panic in the United States. It's an absolutely wild story that sounds more like something from a pilgrim village in 1685, not the suburbs of LA in the 80s, but it's something that actually really happened, and it had real, serious consequences. The story is kind of crazy.
To describe this story as horrifying would be an understatement. And if that sounds like a warning, then that's exactly what it's meant to be. It deals with the sexual abuse of children by satanic cults, when a British Member of Parliament linked them with the ritual murder of children. In this day and age, it sounded too far-fetched, as did suggestions that the same thing might be happening in Australia.
To keep it brief, throughout the 80s, there were dozens of high-profile court cases that involved satanic ritual abuse. In other words, people were being accused of forcing kids to participate in satanic rituals throughout North America, and people were panicking everywhere. The moral hysteria quickly got out of hand, and before long, there were more false convictions than real ones. And, of course, a massive culture war on even images of the occult. People tried to sue Dungeons & Dragons for encouraging murder, suicide, and Satanism because the game had characters based on demons and goblins. Parents banned their kids from heavy metal or punk music in fears that occult references in music would turn their kids evil. Eventually, the vast majority of accusations of satanic ritual abuse were debunked, but not before the whole phenomenon left a scar on the American psyche. Many conservative Americans today are still afraid of satanic influence in media, despite many of the convictions from the 1980s satanic panic later being overturned because everyone realized they were bullshit and nothing really happened. There was actually a group of teenagers who were sent to jail for life, with one of them sentenced to death in 1993 for killing a group of children in an apparent satanic ritual that had no evidence, though they were later pardoned. And that's just one example of many imprisonments from that time. I think you get the point though. A fear of the occult and the satanic have been a big part of American culture in the last few decades. While the craze died down in the 2000s and 2010s, leading to most of Gen Z, or should I say the majority of Lil Nas's fans, having no idea about this major piece of history, it's a very real thing, and it was pretty recent. And yeah, I kinda get how some people could be offended at images of the satanic in pop culture and music. There are real deaths and crimes and a lot of pain and fear associated with the satanic in America, but even then, it should be obvious that Lil Nas X isn't about that. And I think to most people, the Satan shoes are just a pair of shoes. I think a lot of people are afraid if their kids see Lil Nas X have gay sex with Satan or put human blood into shoes, they're gonna do the same. But that's just weird nonsense thinking. Media has never made anyone do something they weren't going to do anyway. It's like the violent video game craze in the late 2000s when people thought if their kids played Grand Theft Auto, they would turn into murderers. But killing people on your Xbox doesn't make you a murderer, it makes you a sweaty gamer. Wanting to watch Lil Nas X shake his ass on Satan doesn't make you a gay devil worshiper, it makes you a 15-year-old Twitter stan. If you're gonna be a Satanist, it takes a lot more than a music video to convince you one way or the other. It's not like Lil Nas X started off the video by reading the 10 satanic commandments, it's just costumes and set design. Hell, even heavy metal from 30, 40 years ago wasn't really satanic. I think this comic strip describes it the best. And Lil Nas X, in the same way, his use of the satanic doesn't go much further than costumes and set design. The Satan shoes, you know, I kinda get it. There's a drop of human blood, there's a pentagram. It's a little weird, but at a certain point you have to wonder, is it really satanic if it's just the image of Satanism? The shoes weren't made with the intention of spreading the message of the devil. The satanic imagery is just surface level. It's a design choice and a marketing move. Plus, musicians have been using the devil to sell records for decades. And you know, it's not 1985 anymore, it's 2021, and symbolism in general has a lot less meaning now. In the age of memes, no one really gives a shit about meaning. In a way, it's a good thing. We have more nuanced understandings of art and the world around us. Just because something looks like a duck doesn't mean it is. And I think it's pretty funny that a bunch of 16-year-old stans can understand that better than highly respected politicians. Anyway, at the end of the day, Lil Nas X is gonna be fine. There are always gonna be people that scream the devil when they see a red guy with horns, and there will always be people that can separate art from the artist. In fact, I think there's an argument to be made that as a gay black man, Lil Nas X has been under fire already for so much of his career, with people being homophobic, racist, and generally hateful towards him, that the image of going to hell and becoming Satan is an act of defiance, letting people know that no matter how much hate they give him, he's gonna stay true to himself. And in the end, what perspective can we take on the backlash but to see it as fake outrage? In the Christian community, how many false prophets are working overtime to lead their followers astray for personal gain? How many Christians suffer in poverty or have been affected by tragedy outside of their control in the last year? Do you really want me to start listing off all the different groups in America alone who need help and have none from the government or the church? Where are the morally outraged evangelicals when small farmers in Kansas can't keep up with the industrial outfits? Where are they when unarmed black people get killed by police? What about when working class single moms lose their jobs? Who in their right mind gives a single shit if Lil Nas twerks on Satan? Anyway, let's talk about YouTube. As you might have noticed, I didn't actually play any music by Lil Nas in this video, and there's a reason for that. When I do, YouTube takes any money I might make from the video and gives it to the record label, which aside from being mildly illegal, makes no sense considering that I put dozens of hours into each and every one of these videos, animating, writing, editing, and doing sound design all by myself, only for a 30-second clip to cancel out all of that work. And just to be clear here, this isn't how YouTube is supposed to work. This is what happens because YouTube doesn't care enough to properly support their music creators. So because YouTube isn't interested in sustaining niche channels like mine, I teamed up with about 100 of my closest YouTube friends to make our very own streaming service to escape the restraints of YouTube and create our very best content. Everyone from the best music creators on YouTube like Polyphonic, Mr. Amazing, Adam Neely, and Middle 8, all the way to some of my all-time favorite creators like MKBHD, Legal Eagle, and PhilosophyTube can all be found on Nebula. Nebula features tons of original content like documentaries and game shows, including my own documentary, A Brief History of Synthesizers, a look at the history and development of one of the most influential instruments in the history of music. So anyway, the purpose of Nebula being to escape the constraints of YouTube, naturally all of my videos on Nebula are both ad-free and extended. Plus you can get Nebula for free. See, here's where CuriosityStream comes in. CuriosityStream is a streaming service that focuses on educational and thoughtful content, so naturally they have a lot in common with the creators on Nebula. That's why we teamed up with them and bundled both CuriosityStream and Nebula together. So here's the deal. If you buy a year's worth of CuriosityStream for 41% off this week only at $11.79 per year, you get Nebula for free. It's included for free for as long as you subscribe to CuriosityStream. If you decide to give it a shot, you've got to go watch Capturing Woodstock on CuriosityStream. It's a fascinating look at the 1969 Woodstock Music Festival, an event that changed music and the world forever. Meanwhile, on Nebula, you should definitely give my original about synths a shot as well. Anyway, like I mentioned before, if you want to experience Volksgeist videos as they're intended to be watched and support my channel in the process, I highly recommend you check out the Nebula bundle with CuriosityStream. You can go to curiositystream.com/Volksgeist to get CuriosityStream for just $11.79 per year, and Nebula is included for free, a total cost of just under $1 per month. That's curiositystream.com/Volksgeist. Clicking the link helps my channel a lot.